I helped my mom get a remote job, and she's 64 years old, and she does not have like any advanced, fancy technical skills, which reminds me what a lot of people ask me, am I going to be able to get a remote job if I don't have any fancy or advanced skills, or if I don't have a degree around tech or something like that? And what if I'm too old? People ask me a lot. Well, when I helped my mom, I was like, this is proof that anyone can get a remote job whenever they have the right tools and guidance. I have been helping people get remote jobs since 2019, and I have helped people who are 19 years old without a degree. I have helped people who are 50 and now 60, 64, like my mom. So it doesn't matter really where you are in your career, or even what you do, or what kind of experience you have. You do not need remote experience to get a remote job. You can get your first remote job if you have the right tools and the guidance. So we're going to talk about that here. If you are watching this video, you probably want a remote job and you're wondering how to do it. So we're going to talk about that, and I'm also going to tell you in this video how I helped my mom get her first remote job. Okay? All right. So to tell you a little bit about this story of where my mom was at in her journey or in her life whenever she got her, or whenever she decided she wanted my help to get a remote job, because this was about 2.5 years ago, and I have been helping people find remote jobs since 2019. Okay, so I had already been doing it for a while. So why hadn't she gotten a remote job at that point? Well, she was retired. she said, I don't want to work anymore. I'm going to live my best life. She moved to a place in the mountains, okay? And she was like, I am going to use my time to, go like to little hiking thingies and activities. She would go to a lot of like music events and potlucks with her friends and a bunch of other people who were also retired. But after a while, she was like, hey, I'm kind of bored. So then she went back to getting a job in this area where she was at, like a mountain town. And again, getting a job means commuting and going to an office every day. So she was like, wait, I want a job, but not exactly this. So then she also was craving like a little bit more excitement and adventure. And she likes to be kind of like a nomad. Everyone in my family likes to be location independent. And my brother has a remote job, so he's traveling the world while working. I was a digital nomad for years as well, because I'm also location independent. Now I have a home base. But my mom was like, wait, I can move somewhere else. Let me just move somewhere else. And then she eventually moved to a city with like more going on and events and concerts. The mountain town was too slow for her. But when she moved to this other place, she was like, wait, it would be cool to have some sort of income, not work full time and not go to an office every day, because I also want to have like freedom and flexibility. So how about I get a little part-time remote job? And I was like, okay. But I knew that my mom sometimes struggled with things like uploading something to a Google document, to Google Docs, or little tech things that moms generally struggle with. Or she was like, hey, can you help me out with my phone and do this? And hey, can you teach me how to do this online? All those kinds of things that our moms usually ask us for. So I was like, I am not sure if with your technical proficiency, because I'm very direct and I'm straightforward and I'm realistic. Like a lot of people can get remote jobs, but if you have zero, I'm not saying you have to be the most tech savvy human in the world, not at all, because there are remote jobs in all sorts of levels and industries, and not all require like for you to be super proficient with a bunch of advanced tools. However, in all jobs, you have to, do video calls and maybe like organize things and use Slack for digital communication and collaboration with a team, and use apps and be able to learn quickly. So I was like, okay, let's do something first. I want to see if you're going to be able to like know how this to like get a remote job, and if your boss is eventually going to be like, okay, do this and this and this and figure this out, because with remote jobs you do not need to be super proficient with all the things, but you need to learn things quickly. And you need to be comfortable also working on your own under minimal supervision, because you don't have a coworker on the cubicle next to you that you can ask, like, hey, how do I do this? How do I do this? Or you can't really go to your boss like, hey, can you explain to me again how? No, because you're maybe on different time zones, and you have one virtual call and then that's it. You don't talk until the next day, or maybe you have one weekly call. So if you're constantly needing help and you can't figure it out on your own, and you're not resourceful, and you can't Google and use AI to figure things out, you might struggle in the remote work world. So again, it's not about the age or about how proficient you might be with tools. It's about being resourceful and finding solutions online. So I gave her homework. I was like, okay, if you can figure out how to do this, I'm going to send you a tutorial for this, and I'm going to send you a tutorial for this other tool, and just like practice. Do this and this and this. I gave her homework, and she figured it out. So I'm sorry that I doubted you, Mom, but she was actually like figuring it out, because when you want something and when you are willing to work for it and you can set time aside, you can learn anything. So if you're willing to learn new things, you can. So she was learning tools pretty fast. So I was like, okay, I'll make your resume. I think one of the important parts of your applications for remote jobs is that you don't waste time applying for a resume that's not made specifically for remote jobs. And it doesn't matter if you don't actually have remote work experience per se, but the resume has to sort of convey that you would be comfortable working remotely, and that the employer is not going to have to train you from scratch because you don't know how to do anything. Okay, they want to train you on things related to the job, but they don't want to be like, okay, let's sit down and I'm going to show you today how to use Google Docs. They don't want to do that. So your resume needs to show that you're proficient with tools and that you would be able to work in a remote environment. Even if you haven't worked remotely before in an actual remote job. So if you worked during the pandemic, that counts. If you did any type of like online school, online trainings, online courses, you can sort of weave that in to make it not, you don't have to lie, of course, but you can paraphrase and you can mention what you learned and what you know in a way that is like, oh, okay, maybe this person hasn't worked in an actual remote job before, but they know how to use this tool and this tool and this tool. And they say they're good with virtual communication and video calls, and they know how to do email management, and they do digital collaboration, and they are good with organizing online calendars, things like that can get you. If it's more entry level, you can get an entry level remote job, don't worry. The thing is that you need to show that you are comfortable working online and working on your own, and showcasing some of the soft skills that are relevant to remote jobs. So like being able to work under minimal supervision, all those things. So we had her resume done specifically for remote jobs, which is very important. Don't apply for remote jobs with a resume that's outdated, because they're not going to look at you. They are going to ghost you. They are not going to call you back for an interview. So number one, it's very important to remotify your resume. Okay. And I have templates, and if you need more like guidance, like step-by-step guidance from the beginning, I have a full course called Land Your First Remote Job. I will link to a free video training in the description box if you want to check that out and if you need more help. But if you can do it on your own, just make your resume specific for remote jobs, okay? Remotify your resume. So I did that for her. And then once we did that, we started applying for remote jobs. So I have a remote job directory, and I know where to find the legit remote jobs out there. And If you want to check out my resources, I have things like a free remote job directory that you can check out. I'll also link to it. So after 2 months of applying for remote jobs, she got her first remote job as a virtual assistant. Okay. So it doesn't have to take forever. If it's taking you like over 6 months, there's something wrong. Because as you can see, my mom did not have previous remote work experience. Okay. She isn't super tech savvy. She was currently not working. Okay. So for those of you who worry about like an employment gap, you haven't been working for a while for whatever reason, doesn't matter, okay? As long as you are able to showcase skills and willingness to work and learn, you can absolutely get a remote job, and it does not have to take 6 months. If the remote job search is taking you 6 months or more, then there's something wrong. And not with you, don't worry, you are not the problem. It's different things like maybe your resume is not made for remote jobs. Maybe you're not looking for remote jobs in the right places. You don't know where to look, okay? So you keep wasting time and wasting like just energy applying for remote jobs that are not calling you back because you are not doing it the right way. So as you can see, if my mom, who is 62, she was 62 when she got the remote job without a lot of work experience, and again, we are not US citizens, so there are a bunch of companies in the US who are hiring people in different parts of the world. So if you are not a US citizen, don't think that you can get a remote job. My mom wasn't. And even with her age, which is usually something people worry about, and her employment gap, and the fact that this was going to be her first remote job, she still got a remote job because she had the tools, she had the right resume, she knew where to look because, okay, I helped her. But if I could help her, I know that I can help you as well. Make sure to take advantage of all my resources. I have a bunch of videos here on YouTube that can help you out with your search. And I have a bunch of other resources, starting with like my Substack, that it's at this point a library of resources. Okay, if you subscribe, you have everything you need to get a remote job, from a 3-month plan to templates on how to remotify your resume. And if you need more like step-by-step guidance, I have a full course called Land Your First Remote Job, and you can start with the free intro training that's linked in my bio. So there you have it. Age doesn't matter, where you're from doesn't matter. You don't have to be super tech savvy to get a remote job. You just need to know how to do the remote job search, okay? I am Andrea Valeria. I am a remote work specialist, and I help people get remote jobs, even their first remote jobs, okay? And if you already have a remote job, I am also sharing different ideas on how I have made money online since I started working remotely back in 2015. So you can also take some ideas from me. It was really nice talking to you this time, and please subscribe, please like, and if you have any questions, comment below. I'm always happy to help. Alrighty, I'll see you in the next video.